Scott Kirby, the Chief Executive Officer of United, announcing 10 new routes. And I was looking at these routes: Ibiza, Bilbao, Toulouse, Okinawa, Valencia. I mean, it's a list of where in the world might you want to go. Is there a renewed emphasis on international and vacation types of destinations for United?
Yes, I wouldn't. It's not just renewed. We're the largest international airline from the U.S. by a pretty wide margin, and we're continuing to grow. What we've realized is, as we've built a brand loyal airline at United that customers love and that customers want to fly, it allows us to open up new destinations to Americans around the globe. And it's been really successful. It's an exciting day for us. 10 new destinations around the globe in a single day. I don't think any airline in history has done something like that. And it's going to be a great summer ahead for our customers and our employees next year.
In the past 5 years or so, there has been this huge expansion in the total revenue that United derives from international relative to domestic. Do you expect that to be the path of travel going forward? That will continue?
Yeah, I think our growth rate internationally is going to be, significantly higher than domestic. We have great hubs for it. We were born on third base for international expansion. Newark is a phenomenal hub. It's the best hub for flying across the Atlantic. And now that the FAA, has really taken steps with slot controls and staffing, Newark is now the most reliable of the 3 New York airports. First time that I know of that's happened. It really enables this kind of expansion.
Regardless of traffic patterns, you're still trying to expand at JFK. And I have to say that trying to get out there these days with the traffic is a notable feat. But you are planning to continue the expansion there with the JetBlue partnership. And even beyond that, how's that going? Kind of where are you in the process of that?
We get our slots next year to get back into JFK. It'll probably be the second half of the year. We've got aircraft delivery delays also, so we have to wait for Airbus to get deliveries in time to have lie-flat seats on all those aircraft. But we're excited to get back into JFK and fly the transcon markets sometime next year.
Last time we spoke, you have been talking about the resilience of the U.S. consumer and how much people have adjusted, continue to want to fly premium. That's been one of the fastest growing areas for the network. Has that continued, or have you seen any shift in that? Yeah,
demand is strong really across the board. From premium all the way to basic economy. We really haven't seen any cracks in demand. And the economy, every time I talk to you, I say the economy is held up better than the pundits would have thought, and even than I would have thought, given everything that's happening in the world. But consumer demand is really strong. We are a very good real-time indicator of what's happening with the economy and how people feel about the economy. And demand is strong. I looked at the bookings for this morning. Demand is strong all the way through yesterday.
So if you put your economist hat on, do you have a sense of, or how would you characterize things? Are things heating up? Are they slowing down? Are they staying at sort of a stable, strong level?
I'd call it stable. I think the economy is not, I really don't see any places of weakness. But, it feels a little tentative, when you think about people worried about, is AI, a bubble, fuel prices, all interest rates, all of that sort of, it feels a little tentative, but the party's still going and people are booking. Demand is strong. It's business demand, it's leisure demand, it's premium, it's economy, really across the board.
One thing that we have seen is jet fuel prices came down briefly and then they've been going back up. And even though crude prices haven't necessarily remained as elevated, jet fuel has.
Yes.
Are you still on track to offset any increase in oil prices through price increases for fares through the fourth quarter of this year?
I believe we are. And the good news for us is, really since mid-March, this is what we've been planning for. We said back in mid-March that we thought oil had a good chance of being higher for longer. It seemed hard to me to think that the Straits of Hormuz were going to be reliably and sustainably open. I continue to think that. I continue to hope I'm wrong. But also, I've been pleasantly surprised at all the workarounds that are getting oil out of the Gulf and from other places to the market. And so given the closure of the Straits of Hormuz, I think oil has, while it's elevated, has been less elevated than it could have been. And I think we'll continue to see that, at least I hope, we'll continue to see that trend going forward, more and more oil getting to the market through other means.
So do you think that jet fuel prices where they are seems about normal at this point and can be sort of the path of travel?
I think they'll probably trend down from here. I don't know. Obviously no one knows, but I think they're likely going to trend down. There'll be spikes up and down, but I think the trend is down. But I don't think we're going to get back to where we were to start the year, at least through the end of 2027. I think they're going to be elevated, for at least another year.
As you shift increasingly international, how much have some of the international conflicts affected travel patterns, whether it's to and from the Middle East, whether it's from Canada to the United States, given some of the tension that we've seen between those nations?
You know, it does have an effect. You know, we're the biggest global airline. We fly everywhere. So every time something happens anywhere in the world, it has an impact. The Middle East was probably one of the biggest, you know, specific impacts. But it mostly just wound up with travel going elsewhere. Instead of going to the Middle East, customers went somewhere else. And so I'm not sure that it was a net as big of a negative as it would have appeared because of that. We see less demand from Canada, you know, when stuff like this week, my guess is this week we'll see less demand. But it came back. You know, we saw it a year ago when the first tariff stuff started. We saw demand fall off, but then it had gradually come back, and we may see it again this week. But you know, all that's happening around the globe, like those tend to be blips in the grand scheme of things for how big we are.
Have you seen European travelers come back to the United States?
Yes, but it's smaller. I think it's more driven by their economies aren't doing as well, because I think that's driving it more than any like don't want to come. In fact, you know, the World Cup, I loved the World Cup. That was awesome. But I think the best thing about the World Cup to me was all the stories about people from around the world coming and saying, America is awesome. I mean, America is awesome. And when people come here, I think they realize America is awesome. But I think the economy in Europe is not nearly as robust as it is here in the United States. That probably drives more of the demand equation than.
John and I have joked about having a travel show, along with our former co-host Tom Keene, going around the world, depending on currency differentials. It would be fun. And I'm sure that you would really enjoy partnering. But there is this question about how much currency differentials are driving travel. I think about the Japanese yen, and suddenly Okinawa is on your destination list. I mean, how much is currency differential driving certain traffic patterns?
You know, I think Japan is the one place where it actually is driving traffic. Mostly it's at the margins and doesn't really drive much, because we carry people both directions, you know. If it's good for U.S. citizens to go to Japan, it's harder for Japanese citizens to come to the U.S. So those have a tendency to balance out. Japan is the one place that I think currency has made a difference. And Japan is hot for demand now. I mean, the number of people I know, you know, go to school with my kids that have gone to Japan for vacation is off the charts. And, you know, we've now added Sapporo and Okinawa. You know, it's pretty amazing flying to all those cities in Japan.
How fungible are these routes? Are these routes going to be permanent fixtures, or are they potentially sort of test runs and then can be shifted to other places or substituted?
Well, the golden rule of an airline is don't fly places that lose money. A lot of airlines violate that rule, and that's why they're in trouble. But we don't fly places that lose money. So I think, you know, probably all of these routes will work. I would certainly bet that at least 9 out of the 10 other routes work. But if they don't, we won't fly all 10 again. But all the growth that we've had in the last few years, I can only remember one destination which didn't work. And we flew it 1 year and then we stopped.
Do you plan to cut any domestic routes later this summer to potentially offset some of this?
No, this is really, a lot of this, the aircraft are different first, but a lot of this push is so big this year because Boeing and Airbus have started to catch up on our deliveries a little bit. And because we got more, you know, we would have started some of these routes earlier if we'd have had the aircraft. But as we're getting the aircraft now, it allows the big push.
You're celebrating 10 years at United. You've been the
on
CEO.
Saturday.
On Saturday. It's going to be your 10-year anniversary. Are you going to fly anywhere of these new routes to celebrate with your family?
I think on Saturday I will probably be my family's Uber driver and shuttling kids to soccer games, parties, baseball practice.
Okinawa, soccer
Saturday's
practice.
Going to be a normal day of shuttling kids around.
Scott Kirby, wonderful to spend time with you this morning. Thanks you so much
Lisa.
for your time.